Well, hey everyone, welcome back to Quick Soil Mechanics Lessons with Brian. Liquefaction simply explained in 12 acts. And here is Act 11, Liquefaction defined. Hey Brian, it's about time. Act 11, come on. So today we're going to be talking about a graphic that appeared in a CANLEX summary report, part of the Canadian Geotechnical Journal in the year 2000. This was the Canadian liquefaction experiment. And they had a really useful graphic in there that defines various aspects of liquefaction. So let's get started there. So the first thing to do is to characterize your materials. So is it strain softening? And this is what strain softening looks like in tau epsilon space. Or in PQ space, it looks like this. Could you have flow liquefaction? Well, here's what flow liquefaction looks like in tau epsilon and PQ space. You can see it's got a brittle behavior and goes down to its ultimate strength. The previous slides were strain softening, but not brittle. Do you have a trigger, monotonic or cyclic? Well, here's what a trigger might look like. You could have cyclic triggers, both shown in tau epsilon and PQ space. But wisdom tells us don't worry about figuring out what the trigger may be, just assume that there could be one. Now, do the gravitational stresses, are they greater than the undrained shear strength? So we've got a slope, it could be a dam, it could be just a slope. And we've got some static shear stresses on that. So let's look at this in tau epsilon and PQ space. So we've got our soil element in the top tau epsilon graph, and that element is actually existing in a state that exceeds the undrained shear strength, the ultimate undrained shear strength. And the same thing is shown in PQ space. So those soil elements exist in a place where the gravitational stresses are greater than the remolded undrained shear strength. So is it contained deformation or is it uncontained deformation? Huge difference. Is there a robust dam there or not? And is there a potential for progressive failure? Deformations could continue without a trigger, or sorry, deformations can continue after the trigger, so it just keeps going and going. We've seen that at Brumadinho, we've seen that at Samarco, at Stava, and Mary Spratt. So they keep flowing long after the trigger. So let's look at if we have strain hardening behavior. So if we have strain hardening, we could have cyclic softening, and you can see there's a relationship between a strain softening behavior and cyclic softening. So if we have cyclic softening, let's look at the size and the duration of cyclic loading. So earthquake loading at your site would depend on the distance to the earthquake, the duration, magnitude, number of cycles, frequency, content, and so on. So it has to be strong enough and long enough to be able to cause this liquefaction. So are there stress reversals or no stress reversals? So if we look in PQ space with stress reversals, we've got our compression and extension, and we've got our happy little soil element. We hit it with an earthquake. With stress reversals, we can see that it goes through zero momentary effective stress, and it just keeps on moving until the cycles stop. And if we have no stress reversals, again, compression and tension, our soil element, no stress reversals, so it can get to failure, but it doesn't go through zero effective stress. So those two tell you whether you have cyclic liquefaction or mobility. If there's no stress reversal, it's cyclic mobility. And if there are reversals, then you've got cyclic liquefaction. And you can have very large deformations with liquefaction or limited with cyclic. And we can see here whether we have large or small deformations. And deformations essentially stop after cyclic loading. However, if we have large deformations, you can see we can go down to that lower box, possible pore pressure redistribution, back to the top, and that pore pressure redistribution could cause strain softening behavior, and then we can have a flow failure. So that is the diagram. I think it all makes a lot of sense. And that brings us to the end of Act 11. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. If I got something wrong, if I got something right, if you liked it or you didn't, just let me know. Look forward to the comments. And thanks so much for listening. We'll come back next time with some more of these lessons and hit Act number 12. Thanks.